On September 6th, 1620, it's 402 years almost to the day, 102 people left England on the Mayflower. Of them, 37 were part of the separatist movement, known in England as nonconformists, as Puritans, and later by us as Pilgrims. The others on the ship were enslaved people or people caught in indentured servitude or children or crew. And I have to tell you, I looked at the list. Some are just listed as wife, which opens up a whole other set of questions for me. But for the moment, I'm talking about those 37 people who made a choice to leave Mother England for the opportunity to live their faith in a church structured on their newly reimagined theology. They left home with a vision for a place that could be even more welcoming, even more comfortable, even more reflective of who they are. They left because they had a vision of a new home, one that fit and served and supported them more than the one they had. And they traveled for 66 days across the Atlantic, not so much to find it, but to build it together. Central to the dream they pursued was the new concept of a covenanted church, one where people belonged because they wanted to. In England, and to be fair, all over Europe, people were not given the opportunity for personal faith. They had national faith. They were told what they believed and practiced. In England, it was a matter of patriotism, and lack of membership in the national church came with severe penalties. Setting sail across an ocean was their way of disentangling themselves from Anglicanism and the doctrine of the state. They were trading that and all that was familiar for something new. Not long after the Mayflower landed, John Winthrop was preaching to a new batch of pilgrims headed to this land, and to them he said, "Now, the only way to provide for our posterity is to follow the counsel of Micah, to do justly, to love mercy, to walk humbly with our God. For this end, we must be knit together in this work as one person. We must entertain each other in brotherly affection." I apologize for the language. "We must delight in each other, make others' conditions our own, rejoice together, mourn together, labor and suffer together, always having before our eyes our commission and community in the work, our community as members of the same body." This is covenanted religion. And every church had their own specific covenant, their own promises and understandings of who they were to each other. But the covenant as binder was universal, and it continues to be centuries later. We are not bound together by doctrine. We are bound together by covenant. We are here because we choose to be here. We are with each other because we want to be. Now, I know this isn't new to you. We've been talking about this since I arrived. What might be new to you, to those who are members here, is that we're going to start getting serious about what it means for us to live into the promise of covenanted community. What if, as Winthrop says, we delight in each other, rejoice in each other, mourn together, suffer and labor together? In his poem, "I Am a Little Church" by E.E. Cummings, he writes, "My life is the life of the reaper and sower. My prayers are prayers of earth's own clumsily striving, finding and losing and laughing and crying children, whose any sadness or joy is my grief or my gladness." He's describing authentic community, covenanted community, whose any sadness or joy is my grief or my gladness. You ever had that experience? Maybe you were or are in a family system that feels deeply supportive, where each person clearly and certainly has each other's backs. Or maybe there's an authentic community at work where you know the details of each other's lives. You celebrate and mourn together and walk together in love. It can happen in friend groups, although after college those can be harder to come by. I am in one, though, a group of friends who text daily, who share meals several times a week. We raise our children together. It feels safe. There are many examples, and you might be part of one. Although, after this pandemic disruption, it's also possible you used to be part of such a circle, and it has since dissolved. COVID and other cultural shifts have made genuine community harder to find these days. But here we are. A community of faith whose bedrock belief, whose organizing principle is covenant. For the next 2 years, we're going to focus a lot on covenant, on becoming that community of people who experience deep relationship. People who have made a decision to be together, to love and work and dream and grieve and celebrate together. We'll start with a series of cottage meetings to talk about what covenant is and what we dream for this congregation. And I'm hoping every member participates, because the only way we shift the culture is with intention and engagement. We are only ourselves. We belong to a denomination, we have partner churches, but Community Church of New York is part of the free church movement. That was the language of those Puritans, those nonconformists. The whole denomination, all of Unitarian Universalism, is part of the free church movement. This refers to our polity that allows each church to define our own parameters, to write our own bylaws, to create our own policies, to worship as we see fit. Sometimes the term free church also points to our shared recognition that faith cannot be dictated, that each person must come into their own understanding of the world, filtered through personal experience. If we're going to abide our theology of covenant, we'll do it because we decided to. No one's going to dictate this to us. And I love that term, free church. I was Roman Catholic for a really long time, so I really appreciate the term. I'm going to say, though, in this particular national moment, I also worry that it's a little too close to the term liberty, which gets bandied around a lot, becomes sort of a justification for all kinds of anti-communal behaviors. I'm not going to go into yet another history lesson, so I'm going to simplify and say that when our nation's founding documents were written, the liberty to which they were referring was not individual, it was collective. That is to say, our liberty, not my liberty. Freedom came from the group's ability to make choices without interference by a distant power. So regardless of those sort of unfortunate parallels, the term free church continues to define and describe us in the 17th to the 21st centuries. We just have to kind of make that distinction with common parlance. This isn't about me, this is about us. UU theologian and historian Reverend Alice Blair Wesley tells us the free church, meaning us as inheritors of the faith that traveled the Mayflower, the free church is an organization we establish and join so we may help each other to find over and over again in 1,000 varying time frames and settings what are our worthiest loves, and therefore what those loves now require of us, if we would be loyal in the most meaningful sense. What a question. What are our own worthiest loves, and what is required of us to be loyal to them. And in this free church, in this covenanted faith, we are called to ask that question in the context of our intentional, committed relationship with each other. I am for you, and you are for me. We are a community. Your sadness or joy is my grief or my gladness. Together we will find and practice and embody and protect all the ways of love, all that is worthy of love, all that is required of love. And to that end, we're hoping to inspire some deeper connections across the congregation. Some of you have joined a Wellspring group. Some of you are enjoying circle suppers and brunches in all their locations and formats. Some of you are on the board, a group that has shifted from just a working group to a gathered group of seekers and dreamers who are leading our transformation. Over this year, some of you will join Brother Zachary in the pastoral care programming he'll be designing. And some of you will lead the way, making the transition from our care team to a culture of care, where everyone is responsible for everyone, where we know that everyone is in need and everyone has something to offer. So today is homecoming. 6 months ago, I made a note in the worship calendar not to call this service homecoming because, let's face it, this is not home. This might be the Mayflower, though. This might be the ship that we're sailing, grateful that it's keeping us safe and dry, but it is not home. It's a means to an end. So I didn't want to pretend that we were coming home. I wanted to name it and say maybe next year. And to be honest, I really think with Christmas next year, Christmas 2023, we will be in our own space. But then I kind of just changed my mind. I thought, this is a homecoming. I think we are coming home. We're not coming home to a physical space. We're coming home to ourselves. I'm calling us back to our deepest values. I'm calling us home to the hope that we each had when we joined this church, to those visions of community, of shared lives, to living the question of our worthiest loves, where we delight in each other, mourn together, suffer and labor together, where your sorrow is my grief and my joy is your gladness. So welcome home. Welcome home to the visionary and beautiful future of Community Church.